Hello everybody and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news. Ten Hag is the favourite to become Manchester United manager. Ed Woodward is gone and also Richard Arnold will replace him. We've also got dressing room leaks. We've got the latest on some transfer news around Jesse Lingard and Anthony Martial. Lots to get involved with, as well as what Manchester United will now look like with the absence of Ed Woodward in relation to who will have control on the footballing side. And Darren Fletcher, put a smile on your face because it looks like you're going to get even more responsibility at Manchester United. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, we'll have to wait and see. But it's a lot of power for somebody who a year ago was at Stoke with nothing on his CV. So look, we've got the United DNA running through the veins again. But look, hope you're doing well. A couple of things to announce before we get into this news. First of all, Ethan, happy 18th birthday on Sunday. Got an email from your dad saying, could you get a shout out? There it is. Happy birthday to Ethan on Sunday, who's a big fan of the channel and the community. 18. And also, link in the video description. If you like my FIFA career modes, I'm straight after this stream going on to Twitch to play FIFA career mode. So links in the video description for that. Give us a follow on Twitch or just go over to there. So let's fly straight into the show. So this is basically all coming out from Henry Winter, who, look, I don't know. I mean, Henry Winter is considered to be a respected journalist. I used to watch him on Sunday Supplement all those years ago on Sky. He's not really somebody I'd listen to about transfer news or anything like that, but I would imagine he's probably not bad when it comes to corporate and structural running of the football club, because he would be considered a respectable journalist by Manchester United. So you can probably take most of this as coming from the club, I would say. Basically, Ed Woodward is leaving. February the 1st will be the new CEO. But in that, he also said, talking about that Ed Woodward will stay on the football board until the end of the season, helping his successor, Richard Arnold, settle in, and his final act may be involved in the appointment of a manager with Erik ten Hag, the leading contender. Now, look, I don't know. I think it's always, spin around Manchester United can be quite nauseating. There's so much of it, but I mean, on a day where we were this morning talking about the outrageous, disgusting and downright disrespectful attitude of some of our players, we then get, by lunchtime, a story about Ten Hag being the next manager of Manchester United. And I just don't think it does us any good. So I don't know where this is coming from. You would expect... I expect this is coming, I don't know, but I expect this is coming from the club because it's coming from Henry Winter, who's given us all this detail on Ed Woodward and Richard Arnold, who are CEO and next CEO, and amongst that, Ten Hag is the favourite. It's not like whoever's given him all this accurate information on Ed Woodward and Richard Arnold, he's then phoned up some other person who's told him about Ten Hag. He's obviously got it from the same place, which means it's coming from the club, really, and it undermines the manager. I mean, I just don't understand what we're trying to achieve as a football club. We've got players undermining the manager by saying they don't like him. And then we've got an article about Ed Woodward and Richard Arnold. And it's all about Ed Woodward and Richard Arnold. And then amongst that, Ten Hag's the favourite to be the next manager. Ralph Rangnick's only been here a month. He's spoken about hopefully staying in charge for another year. And then we're getting a story about Ten Hag. I mean, it shows you which side the club is siding on, doesn't it? Players coming out against the manager, and then an article comes out about Ten Hag being the next manager. It's like, what annoys me the most is it's always tomorrow. It's never today, it's always tomorrow. In the summer, we're going to get Ten Hag, everybody. Get excited. In the summer, we're going to have loads of spending. Get excited. What about now? What about January? He's only been here a month. We're in danger of becoming the spoilt brats who never appreciate anything because, we should not be hearing about Ten Hag at the moment. We've got a manager that's barely been there, who's got players turning against him, and we're already looking to the summer. And I'll tell you what I think about Ten Hag. I think he's got no experience in the Premier League. He's got no experience of managing a big club. He's got no experience of managing a big budget. He's a very good coach. But I see Ten Hag coming into Manchester United being overawed by the size of it and being basically manipulated like a puppet by the same old people at United, whether it's players, board members, whatever. So I don't actually get excited about Ten Hag coming in. I'd be excited if Ralph Rangnick was going to be his sporting director and he had total autonomy on footballing decisions. But already with Ralph Rangnick, we're seeing that the excitement of Rangnick was his ability to rebuild a football club. that's the exciting thing about Ralf Rangnick. If you know anything about him, you know, all the Red Bull clubs he's been involved in, even the Lokomotiv Moscow job he was doing, it's about restructuring and rebuilding a football club from top to bottom. He's come into Manchester United. He's got Mike Phelan trying to make the players like him. He's got Darren Fletcher helping his coaches out. I mean, it feels to me like Ralf Rangnick's got no power. And yet people are getting excited about Ten Hag coming in. You don't get any power at United. Mourinho told you. Van Gaal told you that. Moyes told you that. You don't get any power at Manchester United. You manage and everybody else does their own little thing. And I don't like this story at all. I don't think it does us any favours in mid-January that we're talking about Ten Hag being the favourite. I'd wipe my arse with that story if I hadn't read it online. I'm not wiping my arse with a laptop. But I just think it's just... I mean, look, I don't know whether that's come from Manchester United, but it's very suspicious that all this detail comes out about Ed Woodward leaving and Richard Arnold being the next CEO, and then amongst that, Ten Hag's the favourite. Why is that there? Whoever's briefed that, I would leave that out, because all it's going to do in the middle of January is undermine the manager more, which therefore comes across that you're siding with the players. Like, it's a mess. The whole club's is a mess, and Richard Arnold's job, and look, it's unfair to call Richard Arnold an Aldi Ed Woodward, even though I've just done it. It's unfair to do that because he's got a massive job ahead of him. But the legacy of Ed Woodward for me is absolute failure. Absolute failure. I don't wish him all the best professionally. I think he's been an absolute joke of a CEO, and I don't mean a funny joke, a circus act. He's been a clown, and you know what? I often got told during the Ed Woodward era that he thought he was doing a good job. That's even worse. The person who's doing a bad job but thinks they've done a good job. Tell me what Ed Woodward's done well since Sir Alex Ferguson retired. Every manager he's appointed had to be sacked. Every single one. We've spent over $1 billion and we really don't have a lot to show for it. We've won absolutely nothing of significant. We've not been in a title race at all. I guarantee you now, if you took every CEO of every club and gave them what Woodward's had over the last 8 years, 90% of them would do a better job. He's had the money. He's had the club. He took over it as champions. He's appointed 4 managers. Like, he's just, you know, commercially, very, very good. But we're a football club. He's failed massively. He should have been sacked 4 or 5 years ago. The fact that he can resign and walk away and Joel Glazer can say, oh, thanks for all your hard work, shows you what incompetent owners we've got, which we know. But the fact that he's not been sacked, I just think, you know what, call a spade a spade. A lot of people don't like United stand. That's absolutely fine. If it's not your cup of tea, fine. No problem with it at all. You've got to be able to take, criticism professionally. I've got nothing. I thought people attacking Ed Woodward's house was disgusting. And I think some of the stuff that's been said about him personally is not fair. But he's a CEO of Manchester United, and like a CEO of Tesco or a CEO of British Gas, if you don't do a good job, you get called out. I just think he's been really, really bad. Ralf Rangnick said a few weeks ago that he was yet to focus on succession. If the club has Ten Hag as the leading candidate, that undermines Ralf Rangnick further. Totally Zipak. And Richard Arnold supposedly had an eye for Ralf Rangnick for a few years. Maybe he needs to be given a clean slate and a chance to show he can do well, says Akshay. I'll tell you something about Richard Arnold. He's the new CEO. I have my concerns, as I'm sure many of you do. And we'll talk about these leaks in a moment because I think that's something that's job one. I've got my concerns about Richard Arnold because he's an internal recruitment, which is what United do. Jobs for the boys, mates, rates, everybody knows everybody. But he knows nothing about football. And what I mean by that is he's not a football man. Ed Woodward knew nothing about football and presided over the most horrible version of real-life football manager I've ever seen. Richard Arnold needs to let the football people make the decisions and focus on the business side of things. That's his job. Don't get involved. Don't roll your sleeves up and think you're bloody football manager. You're not. Richard Arnold needs to rebuild the confidence in the footballing side of things. There's a lot of players that need kicking out. I don't want to hear about Joel Glazer having a favourite or Ed Woodward having favourite players. There should be no. Manchester United need to, and this feeds into the leaks. The players are controlled by the manager and the coaches. The manager and the coaches are in discussion with the director of football and the technical director, and then they report to the board. There should be no connection between director of football, technical director, CEO and players. Players should not have the ear of the director of football, the technical director, or the board. And at the moment they do. The players report to the manager, and the manager reports to everybody else. The players should not be able to undermine the manager by going above them. That is not how a football club should run. If you get invited into the board, you sit down and you wait your turn to talk. We need to get a structure back within that football club where certain players have too much power in that football club and actually can go to people above the manager and get the manager in trouble. Effectively snitched on them, stab them in the back, snake them, whatever you want to call it. That needs to stop, and that would be one of the first things that Richard Arnold should do. The great thing about Richard Arnold is if he does the job right, there's so many things he can get right very quickly that will improve the football club, because we've been doing so many things wrong. It's like if you're a Dyson Hoover. In fact, I don't want to be exclusive to Dyson. If you're a Shark Hoover or a Hoover, then, if you go into a room to hoover the floor and no one's done it for a year, the first meter is you're going to make that carpet look clean. I feel that's what Richard Arnold's doing. He's got to hoover up all the crap. But the great thing is, there's so much, it's not been hoovered for years. So he should be able to make improvement as long as he doesn't follow the blueprint of the previous person. Glazers are like family of football, and some of our players are toxic like Oxycontin. Okay, Spencer, you're talking stuff I don't really know, so I don't read it out. Can ask what keeps you motivated and passionate about doing this, even through all the heavy negativity that's around Manchester United for the past few years, says Murray. Because that's what supporting a football club is all about. For a large proportion of my life, Manchester United, every season I had confidence that we were going to fight for titles, but I never took it for granted. Every year I used to get nervous. Every title race got me nervous until I knew we'd won it. I loved winning titles and I never took it for granted. I don't take supporting Manchester United for granted, so I don't take for granted that we should be where we should be. But it's support. But there are standards, and the standards at this football club are low. Any update on Bruno being offered to Barcelona? Can we see these players undermining the manager? I've not heard anything about that, Mikael Roach. And also, Mark, love the show. If you were the manager, what changes would you make to our current squad given the recent drama in the dressing room, says Caleb. And they're on the phone every night crying to Ollie, says Boz. You know what? They probably are on his WhatsApp. They're probably all in a WhatsApp group together, aren't they? But, let me just bring you some updates anyway before we get into the opinion side of things. So, Anthony Martial, Sevilla still trying to raise the funds, but Newcastle being mentioned now. Well, apparently Newcastle weren't that interested in Martial, but with the injury to Callum Wilson, they are. I'd be surprised if Anthony Martial went to Newcastle. I think Sevilla is the right move for him. Financially, obviously, Newcastle can afford it, and probably Sevilla can't. But Anthony Martial to Newcastle, he could be playing in the Championship next year. Is he a mercenary? I mean, that's the thing. I hate to be harsh, but anyone going to Newcastle is doing it for the money. Kieran Trippier's gone there probably because he wants to come back to England, but ultimately you could get relegated. So the money has to be big to do it, and I don't know whether Martial wants to do that. West Ham, still links about Jesse Lingard, West Ham. Now, this feeds in quite nicely to something I wanted to bring into the show. That was I was live with Paul Ince, and this sort of came out from Samuel Luckhurst around Manchester United. Now, Samuel Luckhurst, again, Manchester Evening News, probably doesn't get a lot of credit, but they do have information from the club, and they do have their own sources. So you can you might not like Samuel Luckhurst, you might not like the Manchester Evening News, but the reality is they do have information. They do get information. I mean, it makes me laugh. I had people today, when I was putting a tweet out, Goldbridge acting like he's got sources. Got over 1 million subscribers, been doing it for 6 years. All sorts of people have been on the channel. All sorts of people follow and interact with us on DMs and stuff like that. If you want to believe we don't get information, absolutely fine. If that makes you sleep better at night, that's absolutely fine. I know what information we get. I know what I read. And the reality is, I also know Samuel Luckhurst, Manchester Evening News, will be getting information as well. So what he has said this morning is that sources have stated that the negative body language from some players contributed to Manchester United's underachievement. Some of Lingard's teammates believe he is overdue a run amid Jadon Sancho's struggles. Now, I don't know who he's getting the information from, but I would say that he's getting this from players within the Manchester United squad. I have to be careful what I say here, because I've been told that most of the players within that Manchester United squad have people that they give information to. Now, whether that's the same at every other club, I don't know, But United's really bad for it. But when you dissect some of this stuff that's coming out, some of Lingard's teammates believe he's overdue a run amid Sancho's struggles. I disagree. I disagree with that. I don't know what you think on that one. Welcome to the members club, NL. These players need Sean Dyche or Neil Warnock. I don't feel Jesse Lingard deserves a run in the first team. You know why? I don't think Sancho's playing badly, and I don't think Lingard's better than Sancho. And also, correct me if I'm wrong, Jesse Lingard got a run out under Ten Hag in the Champions League game at home to Young Boys and was absolutely abysmal. So bad, I thought he was leaving on January the 1st. It was a down the tools, I can't be arsed. Worst performance I've seen from Lingard in a long time. So Jesse Lingard deserves a run in the first team. I'm sorry, it's not that long ago that we played Young Boys and he was awful. And Sancho's been getting better, to be fair. So again, this is the problem. In life, if somebody has an opinion you've got, then you tend to go, oh, I agree. But this is coming from somebody who's clearly been briefed by somebody close to that team who is saying players feel that Lingard should get a run in the team over Sancho. You're not the manager, lads. Like, I can't think of a first team player at United who has the right to say that. Even Ronaldo, I would say, mate, you're not the manager. And you need to focus on getting the best out of you. Because at the moment, although I don't think it's your fault, you're not scoring goals. And I don't think Jesse Lingard's going to make you score goals, mate. So I doubt it's Ronaldo. Whoever it is, you've got no right to be leaking out to journalists that people are unhappy because Lingard's not getting first team game time over Jadon Sancho. Who do you think you are? And you're wrong. I would take Sancho in the team over Lingard every day of the week because he's creative and he's a different type of player. And I don't think Jesse does deserve a run in the team. I'd have brought him on instead of Rashford on Monday night, but I don't think he deserves a run in the team. And this is scary. This is what scares me about our team. Whoever's saying it, Harry Maguire, Luke Shaw, Cristiano Ronaldo, Bruno Fernandes, whoever. I don't know who's saying it to Samuel Luckhurst. I don't know who's saying it. But the reality is, who do they think they are? You're a player of Manchester United who's paid very well to play for Manchester United. Take your nose out of team affairs and what you think's right. You're not the manager. Maybe one day you'll become a manager and you can pick the team. You don't pick the team. You focus on yourself. And it's like what we were talking about. Fantastic video this morning with Paul Ince. Do you think when Paul Ince was playing for Manchester United with Mark Hughes and Eric Cantona, they were going to the press saying, don't agree with what he's doing. Bringing through this young lad, Gary Neville at right back. Don't agree with it at all. Should be Paul Parker playing. No, it didn't happen because they weren't the bloody manager and it needs to stop happening. You've got to give it to Ollie. His man management was incredible. Now you think of it, no matter the situation, they all had his back. Lost a great man, says Rash. Yeah, Rash, don't take that as serious. He does it all the time. Hey, Mark, any news on transfers in January, says Mohammed. And regarding the leaks, I can't help but think about Rashford and his amazing PR team. We should be selling him instead of Martial. That's real progress, says Julian. I think it's very unfair to predict players are doing this or not. I think it's very, very unfair. I mean, the only thing I would say on Rashford is and I think somebody said it in the chat this morning, is that Rashford gets dropped. Ollie never dropped Rashford. Rashford gets dropped and now we're getting loads and loads of upheaval. But Rashford's not the only player who's been dropped. Bruno got dropped. So I don't think it's fair to individualise who's responsible until we definitely know who's responsible. Which, I mean, I suppose most of you can probably guess who it is anyway. It's incredible how these players are trying their best to make Ollie's departure similar to Sir Alex Ferguson. All these leaks and snaky comments make me want to cry, says Mario. And what can Man United do from here? 17 players are unhappy. We can sit here and talk about that, but realistically, what should happen? You know what needs to happen, Arjun? They need to get down and work for the manager. Simple as that. You know, I've heard it a few times, and I totally agree with it. You can't make an omelette without smashing a few eggs. Hopefully, what we're going through at the moment is we're smashing a few eggs. The players aren't happy because they're having to work hard, and things are happening that they don't like. But to reference the previous manager, he was everybody's mate and they all loved him. They didn't want him to get the sack despite we'd lost 5-0 to Liverpool. We were getting hammered each week. But they didn't want him to go because they loved him. He was a mate. That's not what football should be. If your manager's your mate, that's great. But really, that shouldn't be happening anyway. So hopefully This is just the pain before the gain, whereby everyone's falling out and everybody's, going to focus on the results. Because obviously that Brentford game's been rearranged now. So we've got Villa in the Cup next Monday. Then we've got Villa in the league on the Saturday. Then we've got Brentford in the league on the Wednesday. And then we've got West Ham in the league, I think, on the Sunday. So it's a massive 3 games coming up in the Premier League. Do you think Shaw's comments on the manager giving his ideas was a dig at Ranieri's fame? And what can... Yeah, well, look, a couple of things I need to answer there. First of all, I like Luke Shaw. I do like Luke Shaw, but I just think that everybody's tainted at the moment by the complete and utter disregard and respect for the badge. This should not be happening at a club like Manchester United. It's disrespectful. These players really don't understand what this football club's all about. And I would say to those players, before you start picking up the phone or sending messages to journalists to cause trouble, maybe just hold it in your head for a minute. Who pays your wages and what football club are you at? Because every time you're doing it, you're damaging the club. Martial and Ronaldo up front, Sel Cavani, says Lewis. And we had this problem at Arsenal, fights at training ground getting leaked. Arteta sends Mustafi and Ozil on loan. Boom, magic, no more leaks as M4s. Well, this is what I mean. Going back to Jesse Lingard, just get him out. I'm not saying he's the leak, by the way, but get him out. If he's not happy about game time, get him out. If he doesn't want to sit on the bench, get him out. If Dean Henderson's not happy, get him out. Martial, get him out. If Donny's not happy, get him out. If people aren't happy that they're being dropped, get them out. Like, otherwise you're going to lose, aren't you? You're going to lose. No matter who we bring to manage, they can't do it properly if there are 20 players trying to manage the team as well, says Sean. Exactly, that's the problem. And as long as these players are here, no manager will succeed, says Nickel. I agree. And we never see leaks from Son, Kevin De Bruyne, Salah and Lukaku. Ralph might be struggling because he never managed a team of 15 superstar individuals, says actually. And it should be in their contract. If they leak stuff, their contract gets voided. Well, do they know the leaks, Stephen? Have they even bothered to look who the leaks are? Lingard has produced more pics of himself in a West Ham kit. He has goals, assists for us. He's another one who can jog on, says Gerard. And it seems like everyone wants to blame Ronaldo. I don't get the Ronaldo blame margin. But you know what? In any walk of life, if you've got somebody that's undermining you and you're in charge of them, you have to let them go. Imagine... I'm not going to name a player here, but imagine you're Ralph Rangnick, right? And a player that you've dropped who's a first teamer, just a first teamer, doesn't need to be dropped. A first teamer has undermined you and basically isn't happy. You have a chat with that person and they tell you why they're not happy. What are you going to do with them? Because if you change because they're not happy, you look weak. You cannot, and I'd say this to Richard Arnold, Ed Woodward and anyone else, what's happened in the last 48 hours should be a massive warning sign to you that squad needs clearing out. Because if these players are moaning about change that needs to happen, then they're always going to be obstructive. They're always going to be a problem unless you give them their way. Well, what is their way? They've had their way for 3 years under Ollie. We never had any problems under Ollie because everyone was happy, but we weren't good. The players just aren't good enough. And I don't know whether this club is anywhere near run well enough. In fact, I'd say it's not, to clear out the problems, which is why I think this is going to be years and years of not winning a title. Jose, Conte, Klopp, Simeone, Pep have one thing in common. They are tyrannical psychopaths. We should stop wishing for arm around the shoulder managers, says Andre. And these leeches have hijacked your club. The board will never get rid of them. Also, all your problems will continue. Yeah. Well done, Ash. Mark, the scary thing is it can get a whole lot worse next season given how many players will leave. And Rash, that's from Rash. And what Ralph is allowed to do in the new week to 10 days will speak volumes. Yes, Patrick, I think you're spot on. And now let me just go back to a question. There was a question about what do you think is going to happen in the transfer window in January. Well, look, I think you're right. I think the next 2 or 3 weeks are huge in relation to who leaves and who comes in. If Rangnick doesn't get anybody in, that means the club are siding with the players, and Rangnick will be gone in the summer. If he's got no authority to bring a player in, we're in big trouble. Now, there was something today, and I take it with a massive pinch of salt because it's from Talk Sport, but basically, I think it was Alex Crook, Talk Sport, was saying that Man United don't expect any significant signings in January. They're preparing for a major summer of transfer activity. And, that would be bad news because, as I've said before, Please buy Dembele, says Hart, who's a Barca fan. We don't want him. I would say that if Manchester United are planning on a big summer transfer window and they're not going to buy anybody now, the summer transfer activity they're going to see is mass exodus of talent because they don't want to play in the Europa League. We won't finish in the top 4 if we don't buy a midfielder in the next few weeks. We're not going to get in the top 4 unless we're extremely lucky. And Arsenal and Spurs and West Ham would have to drop a lot of points. If we think we're waiting till the summer to have a big window, we're going to fail. Like, they have to get a midfielder in now. The fact that Zakaria is available for 6 million and Kamara is available for 10 million. Look, they might not work, but I would do it. And if they did it and it doesn't work, you'd have to say, well, at least we tried. If they don't get a midfielder in, we're not going to get top 4 based on the first half of the season because we've lost over 80% of our midfield battles against Norwich, against Newcastle, against Liverpool. You know, we're not, we're totally open. We don't single anybody out. We're not elitist. We don't just lose midfield battles to Liverpool. We'll lose them to Norwich as well. So I don't see us getting top 4 if we don't do transfer activity in January. Do you honestly think Arnold and Ranić will gradually sell these troublemakers and underperforming players? For me, I'm not sure. No, I don't. Soft whites. I don't think that will happen at all. I've just been reminded there is some more quotes from Samuel Luckhurst to read. So look, Jesse Lingard. There's interest from West Ham. But there is obviously moaning that he's not playing for the United team. I don't think Lingard's, take away the dressing room leaks. I don't know who I'm not saying it's Lingard at all. Let's talk about it about football because that's what I want to talk about. Do I want Jesse Lingard to get a run in the first team? No. Would I sell him to West Ham today? Yes. Do I think that's the best move for him? Yes. I just think when we've had this for 6 months now, Lingard not in the team and constant, well, he's not in the team, Instagram post a lot. It's just noise. And if you can stop that problem, stop it. The trouble is, I think Lingard wants to run his contract down, so I don't think he's going to go anywhere. Sources, okay. Mason Greenwood's apparent greediness is also believed to have riled some teammates. Players feel Van der Beek's training performances have merited more starts than he has had this term. So this is from Samuel Luckhurst again. Again, this has got to be coming from a player or players within and around the team because it's directly quoting Van der Beek should be getting more game time, which I'm sure will prick some of your ears up, but doesn't, again, excuse the fact that it shouldn't be being said, and it shouldn't be being said. And there's 2 reasons. 1, it shouldn't be being said anyway because you're leaking information. That shouldn't be happening. But 2, you're not the manager. And I think Van der Beek should get more game time as well, but the players are not the manager. The manager must be allowed to manage. I'm stunned, and I'm sure some of the players are stunned, but you're not the manager. And if you don't like it, put a transfer request in. It's as simple as that. I think sometimes players think they're acting in the best interests of the club when they put information out to journalists and stuff. But this doesn't help the club. It just creates chaos. And I would rather players put transfer requests in if they're not happy than leak information, really. Because if you put a transfer request in, I would respect Jesse Lingard or Donny van der Beek if they put a transfer request in because I understand their frustration. But it's the constant bitching about not playing this, that and the other, but they stay. And you think, well, how obvious do you want it to be that they're not going to pick you? As for Mason Greenwood's apparent greediness, riling some teammates, and also dressing room sources say confrontation is brewing between a number of players and Ranić if moves are not sanctioned this month. I would expect that to be Dean Henderson. I'm only predicting. I would expect that to be Dean Henderson, Anthony Martial, 2, I think, who want to go this month. I'm not sure Lingard wants to go this month, or Donny, or Pogba not. So the only 2 I can think that would be leading to confrontation if they're not allowed to go would be Martial and Henderson on those 2. But going back to the Mason Greenwood thing, apparent greediness is believed to be riling some teammates. Well, again, it's riling some of you. I do the watch-alongs. I've seen some of you talking about Mason Greenwood not passing, and it riles you. So look, I'm not saying the players aren't wrong to be pissed off, but it shouldn't be coming out. I don't know who they think they are again. I don't know who they think they are and what they think they're doing. If I'm a Man United player and I'm pissed off that Mason Greenwood's not passing to me, I'll do what Ronaldo does. I'll bloody tell him. And if he still keeps doing it, I'll go to the manager and say, He won't bloody pass. What are we doing about it? The last thing I'm going to do, and I haven't even got it with me, so I couldn't do it anyway. I'm not going to pick my phone up and go, "Oh, Samuel, we're really getting pissed off with Mason Greenwood. Yeah, and Donny should play more. Is that enough? And if I don't get a move soon, I'm going to tell Ranić off. That's great. Okay, put it in the paper. I'm not going to do that, because if I really care about this football club, and I'm not happy about Mason Greenwood passing, or I'm not happy that Van der Beek's not starting, what's better for the football club? If I'm not happy about Greenwood passing, or I'm not happy about Donny van der Beek starting, what's best for me, my fans and my club? That I leak that to the press and cause an issue, or I go and speak to those players and the manager? And that's what Man United players should be doing. I really have got no problem if they're not happy. I've got no problem if there are issues in the dressing room with the way we're playing, the way some players are playing, but air it in the dressing room. Don't leak it out, because it undermines us and it makes us embarrassing. And, if you think about a governmental party, whether it's in America or the UK or whatever, all these leaks that come out about leadership and everything, what does it do? It undermines that leadership. It makes you think, oh, they can't be very good if they've got so many issues. And this is the problem that we've got at United now. As for Mason Greenwood's greed, or apparent greed, he's 20 years of age. He's 20. And he, for me, the last 2 years, he's not really been developed. Ranić's only had him for 4 or 5 weeks, and some of that was in COVID lockdown. We couldn't train. So I'm not concerned about Mason Greenwood. He's a fantastic player. You tell you, I like Mason Greenwood, right? But the only concern I've got about Greenwood, because I've said he's a generational talent for years, if I'm a Man United player and I'm young, whether he's nice to you or not, I'm studying one of the world's best ever players in training every day. I'm definitely taking mental notes, and as soon as I finish training, I'm writing them down. It's like having Lionel Messi training with you. Cristiano Ronaldo is a GOAT of the game. I hope Mason Greenwood is monitoring what Ronaldo's doing. And that's what I hope. Because Cristiano Ronaldo doesn't go on holiday in the summer and get into fights. Cristiano Ronaldo's not drinking. Cristiano Ronaldo, he's not doing stuff that damages his body or his reputation. He's a model professional on and off the pitch, and he has achieved huge accolades because of it. Do what Ronaldo does. You don't have to like Ronaldo. I'm not saying bloody be his best mate, but as a footballer, he's the role model. And the only thing I would say to any young player at United, or any player that wants to learn, is don't go siding with people because they're your mate against someone like that. Because someone like that, Cristiano Ronaldo, if you want to be a footballer, is just a brilliant person to absorb information from. And I think what's happened at United, in fact, we know what's happened at United over the last 48 hours, is certain players are siding with their mates over ability, and that's great. People will be saying, "Well, yeah, you've always got to back your mates," but this is a football club. I remember Paul Ince saying this a few weeks ago. When he left Man United, he only, they were all his mates, but only kept in contact with 1 or 2 of them. They're all your mates while you're playing together, and then you move away, and then they're not your mates, and you've got to look out for your own career. Lard agrees new loan move, says Michael Nolan. I presume he's gone to Bournemouth. And Mark, the thing is, who's really in charge? My suspicion is that Ranić doesn't have control. It's actually Phelan and Fletcher. Ralph is just a placeholder, says Sean Finity. Look, that's quite a good story. Because all around this Richard Arnold, who's going to take over as CEO on February the 1st from Ed Woodward, there was a line amongst all of it saying that Richard Arnold will give more footballing responsibility, decision making to Darren Fletcher and John Murtagh, which in one way is good because Woodward didn't do that, but in the other way it's bad because I don't think Murtagh's actually that good. And I also don't... Well, he's not proven yet. I don't think he's proven himself yet. That's not fair to say he's not good. I don't think he's proven himself yet because our recruitment's not actually been that good for a very long time. And again, Darren Fletcher with more power. I don't know what he's done to get this power, because he literally only came back to the club in October 2021. And he was just coming to do his badges like Evra did. And then 13 months later, he's in one of the most powerful, influential positions in the club. And look, I'm all for promoting youth, and if you're good enough, you're old enough, etc. But I don't understand why Darren Fletcher has all this responsibility. And also, if he's going to be the technical director, which is very much an overseeing role, why is he in the technical area? Why is he training the team? So my concern is, and I've said this a couple of times now, my concern is we sacked the last manager because we failed. But we've kept people who were involved in that failure. And how much power do they have? Some of these guys think they're already made it. Greenwood is already way behind Foden. You can't even compare. Says Humphrey. Well, I wouldn't compare because I think they're very different players. Sadly, we need the exodus to remove these parasite owners. The club mustn't be worth the trouble financially. If our talent leaves and we fall hard, they might sell. Then we can properly rebuild. Well, my fear, Marcus, is that if this gets worse and you lose your better players, and for me, the better players at Manchester United are David De Gea, Bruno Fernandes, Cristiano Ronaldo, Varane. I mean, Pogba's going to go anyway. I think if those players go, what are we left with? I mean, I don't think we've got a lot at the moment, but what are we left with? Do you think Varane's going to want to stay at United if we just keep playing like we do? Do you think Bruno's going to stay much longer? And look, there's going to be a lot of queues. The thing with people like Bruno and Varane is that if they're not happy and they want to go, and they get onto their agents, they can stir up interest very, very quickly. We will get left with the players that nobody else really wants, and that's not a recipe for success. We need to be keeping the players that we've got that are good and adding to that, and that's what worries me. What if we end up in the Europa League next year and some of these players say, I don't want to play in the Europa League again, I'll do one more year and then I'm off, I'm not signing a new contract, and then suddenly you're like, in a year's time, a lot of the players that we don't rate are now the players that we're building a team with. I know what I would do. I'd be looking for a centre-back to play next to Varane. I'd be looking to solve the right-back issue. I'd be looking to solve the midfield issue, and I'd be looking for two players there. And I'd be looking for I'd probably be looking for a top-class winger or a top-class forward as well. So 5 players I'd be looking to bring in. But we'll have to wait and see what happens with it. It's a concern. It's definitely a concern. Can Richard Arnold make a difference? Yes, he can. Of course he can. But I think also, it's going to take time, isn't it? It's going to take time to see if he wants to make change. And the problem is, you can't get enthusiastic about change when it's somebody who's been here already working with what we've got. So yeah, let's wait and see. But as I said, we started off with Ten Hag. Would I take Ten Hag at Manchester United? Yes, I think he's a very exciting manager. I really, really do. But my 2 issues with this story coming out today is that, one, it's come from Henry Winter, who is talking about Richard Arnold and Ed Woodward in great detail. So therefore, where's he got that information from? And why are they also telling him that Ten Hag's #1 favourite on a day where the players are throwing the manager under the bus? And now we're getting a leak from potentially the club throwing the manager under the bus. I'm fed up of Manchester United Football Club backing the players over the manager. They did it with Mourinho, and they've been doing it for a while now, and they shouldn't be doing it. The players should be talking to the manager and nobody else within a football club. The second thing that worries me about Ten Hag is he's never managed a big club. He's never managed in a big league. He's never really managed superstars. He's never really managed a big transfer budget. He's not going to come to Manchester United and be like a Conte and go, I'm the man, everybody sit down. I think he'd come to Manchester United and we would dilute him within days. And what I mean by dilute is all the power that Ten Hag has as a coach would be diluted by the strings and the hooks put on him when he came to Manchester United. I think United would like Ten Hag because they'd like the fact that he's not managed a big club before. He's not managed a big budget before. He's not managed big players before. And when I say Man United would like that, I think the Man United squad would like it because they'd be like, well, we can manipulate him. I think the board would like it because they'd be like, we can manipulate him. So I like Ten Hag, but I think he could come to Manchester United and be overwhelmed and, you know, another puppet, which is not what we want. Not what we want. This club needs a total and utter reset. And the manager that comes in has to be given the authority to go, I don't want any of these coaches that the previous manager had. I don't care what's on their Wikipedia page, whether they played for United or not. I want to bring in my own coaches. I want to sell the players. You know, the first thing I'd do, and look, we won't end up in this situation, but the first thing I would do, if I was being, you want to be headhunted by Manchester United. You want Richard Arnold on your phone going, we desperately want you to come to the club. And then I'll talk. And then I'll talk. And I'll say, I will sign that contract. But in that contract, I want total authority on transfers. I want the budget for the next 4 transfer windows written in that contract. No wiggle room. I want to know if I say sell that player, you're going to back me. And on top of all of that, I want a clear house on the coaching. I want to bring my own coaches in. Then I will sign that contract. Simple as that. But unfortunately, United tend to go for managers that are desperate to come to us. And as we saw with Ollie, Mourinho, Van Gaal, and maybe Rangnick, they all seem to be desperate for the United job. And when you're desperate for something, you'll sign the contract and you'll take things that probably shouldn't. And maybe with Ralph Rangnick, it was like he was so desperate to take this job. Yeah, I'll work with Fletcher and Phelan, that's fine. Yeah, I'm not really bothered about, you know, transfer budgets or anything like that. And that's where it can go wrong. Please smash a like on the video. We do have an 8 o'clock show tonight. We've got Ricky on the show tonight as well, so I'm looking forward to that. I should have been playing FIFA career mode 15 minutes ago. I need to start playing. So we can continue the chat on there. It's on Twitch. I've dropped the link in the video description. If you click it and give us a follow, I'm just going to grab a drink and we will be live in about a minute. So I will see you over there in a minute's time. Make sure you subscribe. Bottom right hand corner. We're getting very close to 250,000. 250,000. 1.25. So make sure you subscribe. Proctor the Doctor. I'll introduce you to Proctor. If you don't know who Proctor the Doctor is, I'll be live on Twitch in about a minute's time. See you in a minute. Links in the description.